Hello, everyone, and welcome to our FindSpark event with Publicis Health. I would love if everyone could share in the chat just a hey, hello, that you're here, you're ready, you're excited. We are excited that you're here. We know that there are so many other things you could be doing right now, but trust me, you have made the right choice to join us here tonight. We have a really exciting night filled with fantastic people. So if we haven't met before, if you haven't been to one of our events, my name is Emily Mithner, and I am the founder and CEO of FindSpark. And before we kick off, I would love if everyone could introduce themselves in the chat. So you can share your name, your industry, role, or company. Maybe you are looking to get into a new industry or role, so you can also share not necessarily what you're doing now, but what your goal is. And of course, sharing a link where we can connect with you. So FindSpark events are not just a great way to connect with fantastic, diverse professionals, but also to connect with fellow FindSpark attendees. It's a great way to meet people as you're chatting and connecting throughout this event, and many people end up connecting with each other outside of these virtual chats as well. So we encourage everyone to really participate throughout the event. So again, share your industry, role, company, and a link where we can connect with you. And a quick note about FindSpark, I'm going to share a poll in the chat. So I would love to know if this is your first FindSpark event or if you're a returner. It's always interesting to see. So FindSpark is dedicated to connecting employers to diverse early career talent. We have over 33,000 members, and we've hosted hundreds of programs since we began almost about 10 years ago now. And what really makes FindSpark different is that we really are a community of people who are truly interested and invested in helping each other move forward in their careers. And because especially we're talking about purpose tonight, I wanted to share a super quick background of why I started FindSpark, which the short version is that when I was a college student myself, I found there really weren't a lot of great career resources out there for helping students and young professionals enter into the workforce. And especially not a lot of resources around these really important soft skills like communication and networking and building an online presence. And I knew I wanted to start something that really emphasizes the importance of creating a strong network for yourself early on and all throughout your career. And so in addition to running FindSpark, I'm also an adjunct professor where I teach career and social media courses at multiple colleges in New York. And I also have my certificate in diversity and inclusion from Cornell. So a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Take a moment to just turn off other devices, close out other windows if you're a many tabs person like me. And if you're also a phone note taker, I encourage you to grab a pen and paper for notes and really just focus on the content at hand and limit distractions. Though if you are going to share, use the hashtag FindSpark, tag FindSpark and Publicis Health, and again, connect with others in the chat throughout this event. We will have time at the end for questions. Depending on timing, we might even bring people on video and audio if they want to ask their question, but you can also ask it in the chat, and I'll be sharing some links and resources as we go throughout the night. And with that, I want to turn it over to our host, Lori, who you might have met at a previous, she's been at previous FindSpark events, and we're really excited to have worked with her in this program and to have her kick off the night. So take it away, Lori.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Again, thank you so much for taking some time out of your night to spend an hour with us to learn a little bit more about Publicis Health and a little bit more about this concept of purpose and really kind of how to find your place. So we're going to get started. I'm going to spend about 10 minutes just chatting with you a little bit about Publicis Health. Really want to get it over to our panelists because they're the folks that you're really going to want to hear from tonight for sure. So again, we're going to talk a little bit about Publicis Health. Publicis Health is a part of the larger Publicis Group, which is the third largest advertising and marketing communications network that's out there. The way that Publicis Group is structured is, and Publicis Health by extension, is through this concept of the power of one, which essentially means that the way that it's put together is through these centers of excellence with our clients at the center, making sure that everything that we do is fully focused on making sure that the clients get the absolute best work, ideas, and execution from us. So Publicis Health is the health and wellness specialist under Publicis Group. We have around 3,000 employees, 15 different agency brands that fall under that Publicis Health umbrella, and around 40 some odd offices worldwide. So if you're looking at this map here, anywhere you see a black dot, that is where Publicis Health has an office. Anywhere that you see is shaded that slightly goldish color is where Publicis Group has an office. So where Publicis Health isn't, Publicis Group more than likely is, and there really isn't much on the map where we don't have a presence. So Publicis Health, we are structured in a way of being those 15 different agencies that I mentioned before. We're all focused around this idea of health and really making sure that we are truly influencing kind of how health engagement looks nowadays. So this could be in a myriad of different ways. We have companies that fall under that Publicis Health umbrella that focus in the clinical trial space, the recruitment and the actual experience side of it. We have kind of that strategic insights piece. We have media. Our biggest kind of section of that is definitely the brand marketing, which is where our more traditional advertising agencies like Saatchi Wellness, Heartbeat, Digitas Health all sit. And you're going to hear from some of those folks from a couple of those agencies that I mentioned, as well as our media agency, Publicis Health Media, as well tonight. And as I mentioned, we're kind of in that marketing and communication space. And when we are working for our clients, this could be in a number of different sort of therapeutic areas, if you will. So our clients might be working on something that falls into a more traditional pharmaceutical prescription space. It could be over-the-counter and wellness, pharmacies, medical devices, health delivery systems, which are like hospital networks, animal health. We've got some really great animal health brands that we work on as well. Pretty much anything that falls into that health and wellness space, we've been able to really make an impact on in the world. So rather than me chatting though, I believe I'm going to show you what some of that work is. So I'm going to transition over to our creative reel so you can see some examples.
I'm on the pill.
I'm on the pill.
I'm on the pill too.
So that's just a quick minute and a half example of some of the work that Publicis Health has done over the years. You saw lots of different things featured in there: Boost, an energy drink for seniors, allergy medication, awareness campaigns for ADHD. There's so much that kind of falls within that Publicis Health world. And when you work for our companies, you can really touch things that are truly impacting someone's day-to-day life, their quality of life. And that leads us to this concept of purpose. So that's in the title. You've probably been inundated with that word leading up to this event. For us as Publicis Health, our purpose is to create a world where people are equipped and motivated to take control of their health. So that is our reason for doing what we do, is to make sure that people have that information to make the best decisions for themselves. because we truly believe that healthcare marketing is healthcare. It is an integral part of healthcare, making sure that you have the right information to have those healthy conversations, which will ultimately lead to healthier behaviors, which ultimately lead to healthy people, all falls under that concept of better outcomes. We want to make sure that we're pushing forward with those better outcomes. So thinking about that concept of people, of purpose, when it comes to our people, our purpose in the business space and obviously in the world is to make sure that we're giving people those tools to be motivated to take control of their health. But when it comes to the people that work for Publicis Health, that purpose is a little shifted. It's that we equip and motivate our people to take control of their career. I've got another video to show you all, which kind of encompasses this a little bit better than I could. So just bear with me 1 second. And we're going to restart that. Sorry about that.
Okay. No one I know ever said, I want to be in healthcare advertising. Everyone who I've ever met, who I find fascinating, came to healthcare advertising by accident.
I avoided pharma marketing like the plague.
I turned down the job the first time.
I was working at the Bronx Zoo.
I worked in a lot of packaged goods, telecommunications,
Film and TV production.
L-Girl.
Pasta sauce, ice cream.
And I said, if I'm going to get back into advertising, I want to do something that has a little bit more soul to it.
Having that external mindset and people who haven't done this before isn't sort of nice to have. I think it's going to be great to have.
You don't need an expertise, you just need a brain and a heart, big heart in the healthcare space.
It's not just advertising, it's about lives.
Through tens of thousands of years of evolutionary biology, we have arrived to here.
It's meaningful
and revolutionary.
Think about if you get to launch a brand and it's the first advancement in decades.
A breakthrough treatment.
And I'm fascinated by breakthrough science.
The ideas you create can actually change someone's life for the better.
You will meet somebody someday who says, that drug you worked on, it saved my life.
Changing lives is like what everyone strives to do.
It's expanding into all walks of life.
It's no longer just about drugs and pharmaceuticals anymore.
Any company that didn't think it was a healthcare company or any brand that didn't think it was a healthcare brand now is a healthcare brand.
That is what we are doing every day, and it has never been more relevant than it is right now.
Bust through those typical pharma norms.
Be the person that brings healthcare to the next level if you think it's boring.
It's a lot of things, but it's not boring.
Healthcare is the greatest puzzle.
How do you say something beautiful when you can't just say anything you want?
And I love everything about that challenge.
You make it what it is.
No one is going to let you fail.
How can we help people get better?
Get out of your comfort zone.
What do you want to do with your talent?
I think that you'll surprise yourself.
Come and join us, guys. You just might be really surprised about how much you love it.
Once you try it, and once you're surrounded by all these talented people who surprise and inspire you, once you're in that energy, you're going to want to stay.
I love that video so much, and I think it truly encompasses the passion that our people have for working in this space and what it could truly be like for someone coming into it. So obviously the people in that video were super passionate and really talked about kind of their how they found their way here and the meaningfulness behind it, which leads into this really quick exercise that we're going to do to start thinking about your purpose. So a purpose is the reason for which something is done or created or for which something exists. And when it comes to purpose in the Publicis Health space, we take that idea and we use it in something called purpose squared. It's our talent philosophy, which ultimately means it's this idea of someone taking their own personal individual purpose and tying it to the company purpose, which is ultimately going to lead to this concept of purpose squared, having exponential impact and results and really making everyone succeed on every facet way more than you would ultimately think of otherwise. So what is your purpose? Now I'm going to show you these 6 questions. I want you to jot down some notes. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds. You don't have to formulate full thoughts. I really want you to jot down these questions so that you can take them away from today after I speak, after our panel speaks, to really start to think about what your purpose might be. Now, it's okay if you walk out of this and you're not sure. I am pretty sure I did this exercise about 4 times before the light switch went off and I had that aha moment. So it's okay if it doesn't come to you right away, but these questions are all really great thought starters for you to start thinking introspectively about things that you are good at, things that you are kind of the go-to person for people, and really kind of help you to siphon down what that purpose might be. So again, we're just going to give you a couple seconds to finish jotting some stuff down, and then I'm going to transition it over to my panelists. I kind of want to sing some Jeopardy music right now, but all right. So yes, thank you all so much for listening to me for the last 10 minutes, talk through all of this. We're going to shift over now, though, to our panel. So I'm going to ask Michelle Edwards if you wouldn't mind coming on so you can kick things off, and I am going to fade into the background and just listen and enjoy the rest of the event. All right, awesome. Thanks, Michelle. And thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Lori. So I just want to quickly introduce myself. I'm Michelle Edwards. I am Vice President of Human Resources at Heartbeat, which is part of Publicis Health and has been part of Publicis Health for the past 6 years. I've been with Heartbeat for 11 years, and I am super excited to have this discussion and to bring on our panelists who are all from Publicis Health, but they come from all different walks of life, and they can tell you more about their stories. So I want to first ask the panelists to please introduce yourselves. I'm going to go off camera and you can go on.
I joined Publicis Health Media a little over a year ago. I've spent my entire career in pharma. And I am super excited to be here to hear all your questions. Ask us questions in the chat. It'll be amazing.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eric Kyung, Associate Creative Director of Copy at the agency called Saatchi & Saatchi Wellness, and super excited and honored to be a part of this panel.
You're on mute, Shamika.
All right, we have bloopers. My name is Shamika Smith. I'm Associate Media Director of part of Paid Search at Heartbeat. Been a part of Heartbeat for 5.5 years now, and super excited to interact and meet everyone.
Van Tile. I lead our business management team for Publicis Health Media. I've been there for 7 years and 6 months and 12 days, but I'm not counting. And I'm also very excited to be here and chat with everyone today.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Just gonna start off and get right into it. Tell us about your purpose and how it impacted your career and how you landed here.
A little bit unique. I actually had a class in high school that was a mass communications class, and it drove me to have an interest in advertising. So I went to a local state school, took up a major of communications, and when I was searching for a job, my husband was actually diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease. So you can imagine, you know, a young professional looking for a job, getting ready to graduate college, and you hear that happening to. So at the same time, I got a job. So I spent 5 years of my career before I joined Publicis Health at another pharma agency. So my purpose really is, you know, I come to work every day really genuinely believing that everything all of us do really does make a difference. And kind of like the people in that video said, you genuinely believe you're helping someone, and you're helping a doctor to see a message, you're helping a patient to ask for a particular drug, you're making an impact and helping people to live longer, healthier lives because of what we do. Eric?
Yeah, when it comes to purpose, I think that, when to answer that question, it helps for me to go into a little bit of my background. I come from a, kind of writing and law background. I'm a political science major, from college. And I always, felt that writing and written expression is kind of a strength of mine. It's always something that I've kind of leaned on, and it's something that I have always had a sincere love and appreciation of. And so, it's at a certain stage in college and I guess like the early professional years, so to speak, I gravitated towards the legal industry. I actually worked as a paralegal. I went to law school, in order to pursue a career, at least tangentially, that was based on writing and in the case of law, like making arguments. And I think that, at a certain point, I felt like I wasn't really getting out of the legal industry what I was looking for in terms of pursuing my interests and really becoming the professional that I wanted to be. And I think that, getting back to the idea of purpose, I think that what I was missing was that idea of sparking conversations through written expression. And I think that, that kind of led me to pivot my career trajectory towards marketing and advertising, and specifically healthcare advertising. In that, the entire purpose of what we do and what I do as a creative, associate creative director, is to hopefully spark those conversations, whether it's about a pharmaceutical product or in general wellness space. I think that, that's one of the reasons why I gravitated towards Publicis Health, because of that commitment to, fostering, the ability to live healthier and better lives. Another thing that I think that I discovered was my desire to work in a team. Teamwork is such an important pillar of what I do every day, and what I think we all do as professionals in advertising. And I think that also has contributed to my purpose, my place within this organization and within the industry. I'll turn it off to, I'll transition to the next speaker on our panel.
I'm here. So thank you, Eric. So I'll try and make a very long story short. I found myself working at jobs that were people-centric, and I'm pretty sure that I get that from both of my parents, because I love interacting with people and they both have the gift of gab. My mom is a CNA and my dad was a photographer for the Daily News for 40 years. So, and I also, fun fact, worked in the same hospital as my mom for 10 years as a unit secretary. And I loved it because it was a position that I got to interact with humans and have a lot of human interaction. But it was a position that had a definitive end. I wasn't going to become a doctor. I wasn't going to become a nurse or a PA. But after working with such passionate people, driven folks, and being surrounded by agents of change, I felt moved to pivot. And as the universe would have it, I reached a crossroads world where I could marry my experience in healthcare for 10 years with a brand new career, and it was a total no-brainer. I got introduced to Heartbeat, and reintroduced to healthcare in a new way. And it definitely invigorated my passion for helping people and knowing that I can be a part of something greater than myself. So couldn't be happier to make that pivot. And I will segue into the next presenter.
There you go. Okay. Hi, Kim back here again. Yeah, I feel, I'm going to jump around a bit. I think the identity piece sort of feeds your purpose at Publicis. When we have these D&I groups that get together called Brave Space, you kind of introduce yourself with these different ideas. So I'll go ahead and do that. And I think it kind of like level sets where folks are from and what their privileges and all those sorts of things. So, and they kind of give you a chart of what those are. So for me, I always say, I'm Kim, I use she, her pronouns, I'm cisgendered, I'm queer, able-bodied, white, grew up in a lower middle class background. I have a theater arts degree, and I grew up in a single parent household. And so, all of those things, I remember coming to Publicis Health, and they very early on, throughout even our evolution, have asked us often, what is your purpose? And really marrying those things together. And so, coming from a different background, like the video kind of called upon, a lot of our folks do, and having an arts background, I worked in arts management for almost 10 years before I transitioned into pharma healthcare. I had that question of, well, what is the connectivity here between working in theater arts and what do I do there versus jumping over into pharma? And for me, it was that I support creativity through managerial financial acumen, which is a really nice way to say I speak finance to normies as well as to the finance folks and kind of like play that go-between. And I've done that in my past career and through here. And so within transitioning from theater arts into pharma healthcare, that's also why I have such a passion in D&I and our particular in our agency, as well as, growing up in the South Side of Chicago, just wanting to make sure that, folks have access and being that voice. So I would say all of those different things sort of, those parts of my identity transition into my purpose. And luckily working at Publicis Health with such fantastic people that really combine those things to help you maximize what they are. So you can, just have that get up and go every day when you come to work. So I can pass it off back to Michelle.
Thank you, all of you, for that, the story of how you landed here and how you followed your purpose. So as each of you come from different walks of life, you also come from different backgrounds. And so just talk to me about how your identity has impacted your career journey. And how have you seen diversity evolve within the workplace throughout your career?
Thanks, Michelle. So I'm probably much older than most of you. And my background is I am a first-generation college graduate. Neither of my parents went to school. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad spent 45 years of his life in his career. And when I said I wanted to go to school to become a communications major, my parents, typically thought I was a woman, I should go to school to be a school teacher, or something other than communications. No one really knew what it was. But I pushed on because I had that teacher that just kind of made me love it from a really young age. As far as diversity, when I started in my career, women in meetings was unique. And I think it still is today, especially as, I've gotten the opportunity to elevate throughout my career and take on more leadership roles. We're still a minority, ladies. And we have to continue to push forward, show that we belong and deserve to have a seat at the table, and to not let anyone make us feel like we shouldn't. And I think that goes for the men too, speaking to all of us, to make sure that if we want something, we push on and we work really hard until we achieve it. I think as a woman, and especially as a woman that's aging now, so there's a different type of diversity aspect in me, we need to make sure things are fair and equal for everyone. And it's all of our responsibilities. So Eric, I'll turn it to you next.
So, as an Asian American, I think there's a rich cultural history that, I draw from every day. My dad is a retired architect, and my mom, interestingly enough, works in computers. So I think there was an interesting mix of my upbringing from a familial standpoint that perhaps in a certain sense merges maybe the two hemispheres of the brain. So I think that, that certainly plays a role, and it continues to do so in like where I am today as a creative. I think that, when I think of the word identity, I think of another factor, which is my age. And I think that age, is, rightfully so, an area of discussion within the context of the advertising industry these days. I think that, so I'm 36, and like in my agency and in the healthcare industry, I think that, I and the people that are in maybe like above the 20s age bracket are not, I don't get the sense that there is like we're in the minority, which may be the case in more traditional, in some more traditional advertising agencies that market to like general audiences. I think that, my age certainly, and the fact that I've worked in kind of more than one industry, I think that that's contributed to, maybe kind of informed my approach towards problem solving. And so I think that's a positive kind of attribute. That's a factor of not just my age as a number, but of the experiences that perhaps I and my peers have undergone. Another important facet of my identity is my fatherhood. I have a daughter who is coming on 2 years old now, and I think that that's certainly an important part of my identity now, and will continue to be so in the future. And I think that allows me to kind of empathize with people of different familial backgrounds. I think that's something that is increasingly important to recognize in the workplace. Over the course of my time in Publicis Health, I think that I have noticed kind of like an evolution towards being in a better spot in terms of kind of representation across teams. I think that there's also a recognition on my part that nothing changes overnight, that, but ultimately that listening to each other helps. And I think that having teams comprised of a diverse range of people, varying experiences, helps both the team and also, to be quite honest, the quality of the work. I think that, the collaborative nature of creative thinking is certainly helped through inclusiveness and initiatives that Publicis Health stands behind. And so I'll turn it over to Shamika.
Overall, my experience in this industry has been extremely positive, but it's, take a moment, to get very serious for a second. I mean, it's not to say that I haven't experienced microaggressions through thinly veiled comments or been the unknowing recipient of prejudiced remarks in rooms where I wasn't present. That's just the reality of things. But what I've learned through my experience at Publicis Health and my experience at Heartbeat is that it is not required that it be tolerated on any level. And what I love and admire the most about Publicis Health and about my organization, about Heartbeat, is that diversity and inclusion have always been a priority. It's not an option and it's not negotiable. All Heartbeaters, regardless of race, religion, or creed, are encouraged to bring out our most authentic selves and bring that to work every single day. And it is celebrated, and not just at Heartbeat, Publicis wide. And this was introduced and apparent from my very first day almost 6 years ago. So, how I identify, who I identify as, I am obviously an African American woman, very proud. And, I've been very much accepted, very much encouraged. And, also, coming into the industry at the age of 34, was a little bit daunting. A lot of my supervisors were, almost 10 years my junior at the time. So putting that aside and being accepted and being taught what I do now as an associate media director from an associate level. I just want you to let that sink in. I started as an associate almost 6 years ago. I couldn't be more appreciative, and I couldn't be more proud to be a part of a greater organization that embraces all of our differences and encourages everyone, no matter where you are in the phase of life, to try your hardest and be your best version of yourself.
Shamika, because I know your story, because we're so close, I'll show my face. Close because I know your story.
Mm-hmm.
Speak a little bit about like what you had to come into in terms of like how you had to adjust yourself.
Oh boy.
Being a Black woman and how you came into the space.
Yeah, I think that, it was more of an ageism thing. I think I was hung up on it. I'd like to think that I don't look my age, but if you guys say something in the chat, it's okay, I won't look. But it was combined with, walking into, what I perceived as a predominantly, non-minority industry. So I walked through those doors not knowing what to expect and not knowing how I would be received. But it became immediately apparent that none of that mattered. When I walked in, I was still Shamika Anderson at the time that had no experience in paid search marketing, barely knew how to operate Excel and putting everything on the table. Never did a PowerPoint presentation at the age of 34, and being welcomed and encouraged every step of the way. At my 1-month check-in with you, Michelle, to my daily check-ins with my manager, annual check-ins with my VP at the time, through every milestone, when I felt like it might have been too much, I was pushed by either just encouraging coworkers, senior leadership, and just my sheer will to persevere despite all of the things that I came in with, despite all of my personal hangups. So, I appreciate all of the guidance and help that I've received along the way. And, I try and pay it forward in all of my new hires and everybody, interns, new hires, even people that, don't directly report into me. I'd like to share my story because this kind of thing does happen, and it's a beautiful thing, and I encourage everyone to take a leap out of their comfort zone and try something that'll change your life, and then when you get into healthcare, so many others' lives as well.
So for me, I think digging into that question, what's evolved over my career, I think it kind of, for me, goes back to thinking about when did I first think about diversity in the workplace. And I think as I'll call it out, Shamika, it's cool, an old millennial, right? Late 30s, whatever, millennial. I think, growing up in a diverse environment, it wasn't something I really thought about very often. And then I worked in the theater school at DePaul University, which is in Chicago. And I remember getting a pat on the back because I had hired a junior. I was a box office manager, and I hired, a junior associate, and he was African-American. I got like a pat on the back, and I just thought, like, this is ridiculous. Like, he had experience. He was the best person for the job. And I remember having this discussion with my colleague at the time, Linda R.M. Jones, and she said, "That's your world, that's not mine." And so it just led to this discussion about, and the theater school where I worked was they were very, very big on diversity initiatives. And so it really, she brought that sort of like aha moment that someone had mentioned earlier. And it just opened my eyes in a different way. So fast forward to moving to Publicis, like Michelle said, although I think we are doing obviously a way better job now, when I was hired, I didn't see a lot of diversity. I was originally hired at Digitas Health, which is an agency within. I didn't see a lot of diversity. And because I had come from this really diverse, rich organization, it was sort of what I was used to and what I was craving. And they had a D&I meeting. I went to this meeting, and I actually printed out we used to get these emails. We were small enough. We would get emails every week of all the new hires with their headshot and all these things. And I had printed out the last 12 emails, and they were all white people, mostly from similar backgrounds from the same colleges within the general, Philadelphia area. And I brought that to the meeting. It was like, we are not, we're having this conversation, this meeting, that's great, about trainings we need to have about unconscious bias, and that's great. But we're not, what are we doing to actually bring diversity into the space? And yes, diversity is more than, the color of your skin. Obviously, as Gia mentioned, age is diversity. As a queer woman, obviously LGBTQIA plus, divisions are diversity. But ultimately, tying back to the question, this evolution has been slow. I think in the workplace, obviously, as we look throughout the years, but within, I can speak specifically in Publicis Health and Publicis Health Media, we have ramped up, tenfold over the last year, for better or for worse, through all the situation of where our world is today. But bringing it to the forefront and finally having the really, really hard conversations that we need to have, so that people can, feel comfortable in that space. And then the last thing I'll note that I will say on coming to Publicis Health at the time, there was a time just only this summer, for those of you maybe who follow the Supreme Court, you could still be fired for being gay at an organization. So for me, when I was looking for a company around the time 7 years ago, when I found Publicis Health, that was still a fact. That was a factor in my job search, was, can I be fired at this place? And working in the arts before that, it was not something I had to really worry about. But I had my MBA. I was looking for something new. I was looking for something more in the corporate realm. And there were a lot of organizations that did not speak to me in the sense that I felt like, how can I bring my whole self to work? And at the time, our company was actually run by an out gay man. And so that did make me feel comfortable. And I did talk with people at Publicis Health before I was hired. And so for that reason, I do say that obviously everyone has been always really welcoming, and caring and loving in that respect. And I think it's really just now we're at this precipice where we need to kind of double down on that diversity, and inclusion mantra that we have, and really, put it to the test, which our group has been doing really across the globe, which has been pretty fantastic. So.
So one more question for you. What do you look for in talent that is coming into the healthcare space? Like, what traits do you find makes for someone to be set up for success in the healthcare space?
How I have been able in my career, how I've been able to develop and grow people under me, and how I've seen them have success. So I love the opportunity to interview people. I love the opportunity to interview people at all levels. So actually this year I interviewed our most junior staff. I was new to the agency. I wanted to get a feel. What I look for is, I want people that want to come to work every day and make a difference. I want to hear how you want to make that difference. I want to hear all of your background and experiences that you can bring to Publicis Health. I want to hear what you're going to do within our agency to make that difference. I want you to have a little bit of hustle and a little bit of passion. You don't necessarily have to have experience in what we do. Like Shamika said, we will teach you. We're a very teaching, warm, loving atmosphere. I look for someone in a promotion conversation, or someone's trying to switch jobs. I look for someone who's willing to speak their dreams and then tell me how they're going to get there. So I want you to have a path and have an idea of, what you're going to do. And I want you to be really, really driven. And these are all things that come, from deep within. that will come through if it's something you really want. It'll come through in an interview. It'll come through in a discussion, and you'll hands down be the best candidate for the job. Eric?
So, so much of what I do as a creative working in healthcare is based on processes, and I think that that ties back to the reality that I see what we do and what I do as a creative is really a craft. So I think that what I look for is in a kind of entry level professional would be an interest in learning a craft, and by craft I really mean kind of the processes by which the creative is done. So I think that that's it's a hard thing to gauge, but I think that one can pick up on that commitment and that sense of commitment from someone that's really willing to roll their sleeves up, to use the well-worn proverb, and dive into learning the nuts and bolts from the ground up. Another thing that's really important in healthcare and what I do is attention to detail. Creative ideation is kind of like the icing on the cake. It's the part of the job that we all look forward to as creatives. But the reality is that it's not percentage-wise a significant portion of my time, even at the ACD level. A lot of what I do and what writers do in healthcare marketing is dependent on minute details that kind of that are important, because a lot of what we do is regulated, and so contrary to an agency marketing Coca-Cola, for instance, everything we say has to be true and accurate and verifiable. So attention to detail is a core kind of discipline that I look for. Productivity is another trait that I appreciate. I think that it ladders back to the idea of ownership of one's projects and really of one's growth as a professional. I think that it's certainly a trait that reflects positively on someone's candidacy. To have the spirit of kind of, I think, some people call it hustle. I think that, it touches on the idea that in order to own a project, one needs to be, to have that spirit of anticipating problems before they crop up, so that they can be resolved before they actually become problems. They can get in the way of the work being completed. The last trait that I think is sort of the most important trait is empathy. Empathy is something that I view as the kind of secret weapon for really any creative. And when I say empathy, I mean the ability to put oneself in the shoes of the target audience that we're marketing to, whether it's the patient, whether it's a physician, but also empathy towards one's team, and the ability to collaborate on projects, especially in challenging kind of times such as those that we live in. I think having an appreciation, respect for where people are coming from and everyone's perspective, and the idea that everyone's perspective as an individual contributes value to the conversation, I think is something that that is very much appreciated in kind of talent that I look for. Now I'll turn it over to Shamika.
Great, Eric and Gia, great insight. Coming from someone that was completely green coming into this industry, I definitely have to say that you have to be a no ego amigo. You have to come in ready to work and ready to humble yourself, because every day is different. Pharma presents different challenges every day. I like to liken it to operating in a very small space where you have to constantly tap into your creativity to make things happen. There are a lot of regulations. We're talking about prescription drugs, in some cases over the counter. But, at the end of the day, we still have to report into and get approval from, higher up agencies that, that have a lot of say in everything that we advertise and everything that we do. So, checking the ego, being willing to work, being willing to and ready and able to be vocal when you need to, ask for help, ask for assistance, ask for deeper exposure, just stepping out of the box and just being willing to be honestly the best version of yourself and being part of a greater community. I think that everyone that I've ever encountered and any direct report that I've ever had, I've always encouraged them to, seek out any type of guidance, mentorship. There's a lot of soft skills and, there are a lot of technical things that you have to know. But I think that, to Eric's point, being a human and having empathy and being willing and open to work and being open and honest about what you'd like for your future, all of that all boils up into, having a successful career no matter what you do. And it also contributes, to providing quality work. So at the end of the day, just being true to yourself and being the best version of yourself is the way to go.
All right. So I will try to be brief. You're going to an interview, relate your experience. It doesn't matter if you've worked at a pizza shop, if you've worked in nonprofit, if you've, done something totally different, you're making a jump, you can relate your experience because your passion, whatever you're passionate about, whatever your experience is, you can relate it to a customer. You can relate it to a patient in our world. You can relate those things. So make sure that you're tying that, what your skills are, to what you can do. So if you're in that interview and they say, do you know XYZ? Do you know Excel? And if you don't, that's okay. Say, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. That's that hashtag hustle that Gia was talking about. So we want to see hustle. We want to see willingness and get up and go. And then ask questions. Make sure you're asking questions of your interviewers on top of just the good old salary and benefits, which are awesome. And you should absolutely do that and be aware of that. But things that, again, get that kind of passion going. Do research, reach out to someone at the company if you can, and just ask them questions, or ask your recruiter if there's anyone, ask your recruiter questions. They are there to be your friend and to also help be that gateway. I think sometimes it's a little bit nervous. Do I talk to that person or not? Is this kind of like an interview? It is, but you can also be open with them so that, they'll know sort of that background as well. And then awesome, once you land that job, when you're in the job and in the role, if you see something, do something. Don't wait for someone to ask if you want to do that thing or to jump on this project. You come to them and say, I can do that. Or I see that this needs to be done. I'm your person for that. And it's those side hustles, it's those side gigs that get you seen, noticed to the next level. So that's what I'd say.
I got a wealth of information. I hope you all would take notes because they were dropping nuggets. I want to open up the floor to anyone who has any questions. Please put it in the chat. One question is, what advice do you have for someone trying to make the jump from a supporting role to a leadership position on their team? Who wants to take that one? I feel like Shamika definitely can, but if anyone else, I don't want to put Shamika on the spot.
On the spot, jumping on the spot. The best piece of advice that I can give from someone from being in a supporting role to a leadership role is to not settle for being the fly on the wall. You know, it's very easy to settle into what feels comfortable. It's very easy to be in a meeting but not be in the meeting. Get ready and be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because that's when you know that the biggest changes are coming. I think the best way to prepare for being uncomfortable is, you know, to have a lot of pep talks with yourself, a lot of pep talks with your inner circle, you know, with what's closest to you, and just be open to change. Just be open to change, be ready for change, and be ready to accept, you know, all of the things that you've worked so hard for. Know that you deserve it and own it at every step of the way.
So the next question is, what are some of the best parts of working in healthcare? And also, what are some of the challenges? So anyone could take that on as well.
I'd be happy to take that. I think that one of the best parts of working in healthcare is having a tangible impact on the ability of people who are many times ill to regain certain parts of their life and their existence prior to their illness. I think that that's really special. It's quite frankly an honor to be in a position where that's even a possibility. You know, especially in a space like advertising, where there is so much content, there is so much noise. To really have a direct line, you know, between kind of problem and potential solve is a really powerful motivator for a creative. You know, I think that a lot of marketing out there is based on pure sales. And I think that, you know, it'd be naive to say that, you know, sales is not a component of the equation, but having that direct impact is really special. I think that the challenges are, you know, they boil down to the fact that this is a regulated industry. And I think that, you know, that has very like industry specific nuances that require a ton of discipline. And it really is not, it's a challenge, but it's not a negative challenge, you know, because, you know, the more challenging the landscape is from a like regulatory standpoint, the more expertise is required to master those obstacles. And, you know, I think that, like, I'll just come out and say it in plain terms, like, healthcare advertising is super rewarding, but it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. And I think that, you know, for professionals looking to, you know, to enter the industry of healthcare advertising, it's a double-edged sword, that learning curve, because, you know, that we have a chance to develop skills that, you know, are in demand, but the development process is certainly not straightforward. It's not something that, you know, one can expect to pick up in a week, a month, even a year, and beyond. So that's my 2 cents.
I'm going to pass it on over to Lori.
To come back on screen and do her wrap up for us.
Love if we could give a virtual round of applause for our panel today. You know, you can send an emoji, a clap through the chat. This was such a wonderful night, inspiring night. I want to give a special shout out to Lori, our host who did the intro, who brought together such a fantastic group of people. It was really great to hear everybody's backgrounds and for everybody to really get vulnerable and you know, answer questions. And I would like to encourage FindSpark members, everyone here, as always, please connect with the folks who you met here tonight. Yes, this counts as meeting. So please connect with them on LinkedIn. I chatted them earlier on. You can scroll back, but you can also go back to the page where you registered and easily click on all their bio or their names to connect with them. Send them a custom message that you were here at the event tonight, and also join their talent network. So of course, the folks from this team, and especially Lori, who works in talent acquisition, they want to connect with FindSpark members. They want to hear from you, and they have a talent network that you can join. So regardless of whether or not there's a direct opening for you that you see at this moment, you can join this talent network, which I just shared with you in the chat, and put your information in there so you can stay updated and be in their network as it is. Skipping that. And also just want to encourage you all to join the groups and social media channels that we have so you can stay updated when we have programs. We have our FindSpark Facebook group, we have a LinkedIn group, and of course we have an Instagram as well. So again, we encourage you to join the network. We are going to also send a follow-up survey. You will get it at 9:15 automatically. We would love to hear your thoughts about what you enjoyed here tonight. You can also share a testimonial if you really enjoyed it. We always really appreciate your feedback for how we can continue to create programs like this. And again, want to thank all of our speakers, Lori, and everyone who was involved in putting this program together. I also shared a great article by Lori as well. You can see in the chat, and I'll send it in a follow-up email as well. This has also been recorded, so you'll automatically get a recorded once that has processed. And so I encourage you to share the recording with your friends or colleagues who weren't able to be here tonight. They missed some great advice, but they can always watch the recording as well. So thank you everyone for who's participated tonight again, and we hope you continue to stay in touch and come to future programs. So thank you everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay hungry, and keep hustling. Thanks so much everyone. Have a great night.